Hi, it's me, Sarah. Today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to make these fidget keychains. So the ones I have here, I've made them with different beads and different textures. Some are easier to roll than others. This one seems to be the easiest. This one's bumpy, so different textures, depends what you're looking for. Because I have a house full of crafty things, I didn't have to go too far to find what I wanted to make. When I opened up my beads container, I found this. So this was basically the premise of how to put the beads together to make them roll. I don't know if you've ever made this kind of like woven bead bracelet. This is something that my kids had made years ago. So if you look at this one, it's got a similar idea. So the crochet itself doesn't go through the beads in a way that you'd have to hook and crochet through the beads. It's more like the chain goes through the beads first. So I'm gonna start off by making a slip stitch in my thread and then making a very long chain. I'm going to start with a chain of 50 stitches. So the thread that I got is a pure cotton. It's nice and thin, so it's tight when you make it. And I found this one at the dollar store. So it's not the fluffy one they have, it's more of it looks more like embroidery thread. So I will get going and make a chain stitch and be right back. Because I don't know exactly how many stitches I'm going to need to weave back and forth in the whole thing, I'm going to start with 50. I may need to add more at the end. I might have to take some off, but 50 is a good start, and I am able to adjust that when I put it together. So I have my slip stitch. Now I chain 50. Now that I have my chain of 50, I add a stitch marker on the end so I don't lose that stitch. I'm gonna need to hold on to that. You have to have your beads picked and make sure that you have a needle that will fit through all of the beads that you've chosen to do. You're going to be feeding the thread through each of the beads on a needle. So just like that. Make sure you have them in the order you'd like them to be. So I'm alternating these ones. So I feed all 5 of them on here. So like I said, you don't have to crochet into the beads like some patterns offer. Oh, there's one hidden there. You don't have to crochet into them like some of the patterns I've seen. Now, a big step here that you have to remember to do is that the thread has to go around the back of the bead first. If you don't have that, you won't be able to crochet into the bottom of it. So to start off, we're going to feed the needle behind the bead and then up. And we're going to continue to weave these beads together. So if you picture it like this, trying to show, there we go. Then this yarn is going to go in and out each of the beads. So I've got the back loop there, which is what I need to crochet into afterwards. Now I go through this way. Now something that's very, very important to make sure you don't want to sew into any of the loops of the chain, because if you do that, it will not slide. So I pull this tight around the bottom of the bead and go through the top of the hole. All right, so now I've got 2 beads on, like that. I'm gonna pull my next one down. I want to go in the opposite way that the other yarn went through, like that. pull that into place. Now these may not be the permanent position on the thread. We might run out of thread on this side or this side, but we can pull and adjust it as we go. So now I'm going to do this one through the opposite direction. So I pull the chain down to the bottom of the bead so I don't catch it, and through. Oops. Like that. And one more bead left. You can do as many beads as you like. You can do bumpy beads, smooth beads, rows of beads. This one has rows. This one has bumpy beads. This one has shaped beads. They just all feel and roll differently. And my very last bead, I'm gonna stitch through that. Remember, going in the opposite direction of the thread that goes through it already. Right, pull that down through the top of the bead. There, now I've got all of my beads on, so I can get rid of this needle. Don't need that anymore. And I want the beads to loosely line up so they sit in a direction that I like. So if they are on sideways like that, it's not good. But we want them to line up. Okay, so I have a bit too much thread on this side. This is our tail. Our tail needs to be so the last bead sits about right here, so I can pull it all through. Pull that through there. Pull it through there, and slowly feeding it back all the way to the other end. It's the bottom. Pulled the right side through and not reversing what I just did. Oh, I got it. There we go. All right. So you can see my example from the beginning. This is like a weave back and forth. Similar idea with that chain there. This does not have it on the bottom. You need to have it on the bottom. So now that I'm here, all this chain up here is excess. So we can undo that. That was just to help us get it positioned into the right spot. So not to undo too much because we don't want to lose it, but there we go. Now we've got to cross over to the other side, so I undid maybe two too many. 1, 2. We're going to slip into the other side. Oops. And now everything is attached on this loop. Okay, so I'm going to bring in an example over here. Let's bring this one over. So what we have here is double crochets all the way around. Now that the loops are joined, I get to the next level by chaining up 2, and I'm going to do 1 double crochet into this last end loop here. Now, in between every bead, I'm going to do 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3. Now I jump to the next space. show you how this compares to the one that I did. My beads are a little looser on this one. I could have pulled them tighter. But you'll see how there's 3 between each. This one I did 2 between each because the beads were smaller. So the crochet is going around the chain. It's not going through the chain, it's going around the chain space in each of the holes in there. So I'm going to continue until I get to the end. All right, so I've got 3 between each space. It's a little fiddly. It's kind of changed its shape a little bit, but once I get all the way back around again, I'm able to flatten it out and make it more smooth. This part now is why it was so important to have that first loop around the back of the first bead, because that's what we're going to go into for the end of the pattern. I'm going to do 8 double crochets to go around that corner. Whoops, so I need to pull it out a bit. There we go. That's 7 and 8. Okay. Now I'm going to jump into that space between these 2 beads and do 3 and work my way up the other side. That's 2 and 3. That's the last one. And now we're back at the beginning. So now I need to do 7 more into the top of that bead. Like that. We had the first one plus those, there's 8 double crochets across the top. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the first one that we did, which would be right over here. There we go. All right, so slip stitch into there, make a chain to start, and I'm going to single crochet in every stitch all the way around. Alright, I'm going to turn the camera off. I'll come back when I've done all the single stitches all the way around. So around the top we have 8 stitches. Of those 8 stitches, we're going to make a little section to connect the keychain loop with 6 of those stitches. So if you look here at this one, this is six stitches across. So I'm going to go all the way to our first single stitch that we did. I'm almost there. I'm going to slip into it, and then we're going to chain 2 up. 1, 2, and then I'm going to turn around. So we need the 6 middle stitches of those 8 to make where the keychain hangs on. We're going to double crochet across the next 5 stitches, so that will be 6 double crochets including the chain up. And 6. Now I go up 2, that's a chain 2 up, turn, and then do the 6 across. We're going to do this 2 more times, and then we'll fold it over. So it'll be a total of 4 rows of 6 double crochets. When I'm making a garment or something that's got to be more defined, I look carefully for the top stitch to put my 6th stitch in. I looked for the loops so I can get the front and the back loop. With this keychain, I am literally just going into that chain on the end for the 6th stitch. If you want, you can look for the loops, but because it really doesn't matter very much, it's going to get folded, it's not going to really be noticeable, I just go into that loop for the 6th one. So I have 1 more to go to make 4 rows. Is going to get folded in half and stitched down, so you can either crochet it in. I prefer to sew it in because I find it easier. I need enough thread to do that, so I'm going to cut that at about 6 inches. Pull the loop through, pull it tight. There we go. That will get folded over and sewn down. I'm going to match each stitch for stitch, so I'll sew in each of the 6 stitches with my darning needle. So I look here, I take the bottom of that stitch and I sew it to the bottom of that stitch all the way across. thread through it to tie it off. Got lots of extra thread there, so I'm going to cut it. Not too short because I want to get the needle on to weave in those ends afterwards. Alright, the last thing you need to do after you've woven in your ends is you have to feed your keychain through here, which can be tricky because there's lots of loose threads. I found that if I stick my crochet hook to the keychain, it opens it wider while I'm feeding it on. Definitely tricky. Maybe I need a thicker crochet hook for this. There we go, I got it on. All the way around. And I've got my Fidget keychain, and all the beads spin really nicely. If they are not evened out, evenly spaced, you find they're tight, some of them roll, some of them don't. That's where that first step comes in, where you don't want to catch the chain with your needle when you're going through. If you do that, it might be harder to move around, but because I didn't, I'm able to actually adjust and move it around so that they're evenly spaced now. So they all spin. So there we go. All done.